Hey, my name is Genevieve Price, and I immigrated here back in 1985 from the Philippines via Hong Kong. I felt kind of strange being asked about this because I feel my immigrant experience it doesn't involve any struggle and sacrifice and risk when you hear all the other stories of people who've had to leave their home to be safe and had to go through all sorts of hardship and sacrifice. Mine was a very, comfortable experience. I originally from the Philippines, but my mother is part American, so she was already an American citizen. And she could have made us kids American citizens at the time that we were born, but they chose not to. We moved to Hong Kong when I was 5 years old. My father got a job there editing a magazine, and we had a great life, upper middle class and everything, so there was no hardship to flee from. The only thing was Hong Kong at the time was a British colony, and it was leased from China for 100 years. And in 1997, it was going to revert back to China. So a lot of people were looking to that and wondering where they might go. And my parents were no different. And they decided to finally, explore our American roots and move to America. And that's how we ended up here. But it was just like moving house. There was no, as I said, no hardship, no struggle, no sacrifice. My parent had means. So obviously it's still a legitimate immigrant experience, but as I said, when you hear all the harrowing stories of people risking their lives, it feels like it's not worth telling. But I guess any story is worth telling. And I can't think of any specific stories to tell. It was pretty straightforward. One frustrating thing was my brother, who was under 18 at the time and therefore considered a minor, was able to become an American just like that because his mother is an American citizen. But myself and my siblings who were older than 18, just because, there's no difference in us, in our parentage, but just because of that age, we had to go through the whole naturalization process. We all got our green cards, no problem, because of my mother's American citizenship. But unlike the youngest of us, we had to wait for the residency requirements before we could file for naturalization. And I went through the whole naturalization process. I got the little booklets and studied and did my test. I remember the funny thing at the end of the test was they had to see what your English was like. And I've spoken English my whole life. I was an English major in college. So I remember the tester being sheepish, saying, okay, obviously you speak English fine, but we have to ask you to write a little something in the last paragraph. So that was a funny anecdote I've always remembered. But apart from that, I think my story's, kind of simple and boring, unfortunately. And I don't know how much of this you'll find useful.